I'd like to welcome all of you, our honored guests, old soldiers and friends. Courage is almost a contradiction in terms. It means a strong desire to live, taking the form of a readiness to die. And it is a privilege that we are gathered here today to honor and to stand before you, to respect our fallen and courageous heroes. We are celebrating the lives of Wayne Thompson, as I say, RLI, Steve Kerry, RLI Artillery, Dick Paxton, 8 and 7 Squadron, Bill Libersidge, RAR, John Russell, RAR and SAS, and Vernon Princely, RLI. So in preparing for today, unfortunately we couldn't keep up with the rate of death that we were experiencing, because we started off with 3 guys. By the time we met again, we had 5 guys, and by the time we met again, we had 7 guys. And unfortunately, because of that, we haven't been able to put everybody into the program. Or Jim Lafferty of the SAS and Bruce Fraser of the SAS. And also today is the anniversary, the 43rd anniversary of the Viscount that was shot down. And that is quite an important date in our Rhodesian history. It was also a year ago that we paid respects to 2 of our soldiers, Dennis Crowcamp and Andy Johnson. We meet today and we remember them. There's nothing nobler than risking your life for your country. The parade ground in the sky is filling with our noble heroes, our army of dead. We shall never forget. And it's also a good time to reflect on Winston Churchill's words. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. And that sums up our Rhodesian context. We will always remember them. We will never forget. Also, after the service is done, we will get together and we are going to have a toast to the RLI. It turns 61 in the 1st of February of this year. We're going to now start with the obituaries as we have them. And I'm going to lead off with the first one, who is Vernon Princely. Vernon, Captain Vernon Princely. Vernon Anthony Princely. Born August 1950, died 9th of February 2022. Vernon was educated at Churchill, excelling at sport, in particular boxing, where he went on to become a Rhodesian light heavyweight boxing champion. After leaving school in 1969, he joined a bank, rising to the position of manager within a remarkably short time. Vernon had other ideas about his future, however, and attended the Officer Selection Board, the regular Officer Selection Board, in late 75, where he was selected for the 1976 Army Officers Cadet Course, N2519 at the School of Infantry, Gwello. It should be noted that Vernon was a good 5 years older than most of his fellow cadets, an aspect that no one dared to mention or even refer to him as Pops, once you'd all become aware of that he was the Rhodesian boxing chaplain. His level of fitness matched and often exceeded his contemporaries throughout the course. He never gave up on an appointed task, pushing himself to the limit on every occasion. However, Vernon's map reading skills were brought into question during a classical war phase during the winter of 76 in Salukpi. On a freezing cold night, Officer Cadet Princely was tasked with leading his platoon to the start line, ready to cross over and attack the enemy lines at first light. Whilst leading his men through an ice-cold flay, one tired cadet shouted, "Princely, are you sure this is the right direction? We should have been there by now." Cadet Princely replied angrily, "Can't you see the sun? We're heading east as per the battle plan." After a stunned silence, the cadet responded, "That's the moon, for friggin' hell's sake, Princely." I can't believe that, but we will. Vernon was commissioned as a 2nd Lieutenant on the 4th of February 1977 and posted to 6th Troop, 2 Commando, and then later on to Mortar Troop, Support Commando. The troop had some of the most experienced men in the Commando, and it was considered to be a challenging post for an incoming wet behind the ears young officer from the School of Infantry. Vernon earned his troops' respect with a few bush ships in including that of Troop Sergeant Dutch de Klerk, may he rest in peace. A seasoned RLI man and experienced Moorman. One assumes that him being the Rhodesian boxing champion had some bearing on that. Vernon attended the requisite mortar course and became an accomplished expert in his own right. He did, however, slightly compromise his status when explaining the 81mm mortar to fellow students on a mortar instructor's course at the School of Infantry, after the instructor had advised the group to always display complete confidence when lecturing students. Vernon, confidently holding the bomb, explained, "They tell me that if you can drop this 81mm bomb on its fuse and it won't go off," and looking at the group around him, then said with a complete lack of confidence, "But I don't know about that." Vernon led his men into numerous contacts on fire force and externals, and always led from the front without exception. He was naturally a brave man and an excellent leader. On one fire force jump, Vernon and his sticks were dropped to 200 feet in error, one of the lowest recording of a parachute jump in the war, resulting in some serious injuries. Vernon was appointed 2RC of Support Commander under Nigel Henson. His reputation as a Rhodesian boxing champion followed him through his military career, gathering titles of the Grand Reef Grappler, the Mudzi Mauler, and Punchy Prinsloo in various contexts while on RLI. Loyal to his friends and intensely proud of his regiment, Vernon was a frequent and popular attendant of the Dickie Fritz Moth Shell Hole in Edenvale. His passion for chatting to the owns, and for that matter to any crow that pitched up unaccompanied, was well known, regaling them with lengthy stories from back in the day. Vernon Prinsloo's pride and courage were best exemplified during his final stay in hospital. Despite being in serious pain and discomfort, he did not once complain and instructed his medical team to unplug him from invasive treatments, fully knowing the consequences. And once the outcome had become inevitable, he did not become a burden to anyone. Vernon is survived by his two daughters, Gabby and Trevor, his two sisters, Cheryl and Corrine, and his cousin, Tori King, ex-SAS. Rest in peace, old warrior. That was brought to you by Simon Willow. I have another note to make to you from Nigel Henson, his OC, and I'd like to read that to you quickly. It is with a profound sense of honor that I accepted John's kind request to say a few words about Vernon. Vernon was in every sense a remarkable man, measured not by his considerable accomplishments, but by the humility, kindness, bravery, and fortitude that were a trademark of his demeanor. He was softly spoken, unassuming man, always the one who got quietly on with his task, praising others whilst downplaying his role in whatever had to be achieved. I was somewhat relieved, having read the previous tribute to him, to learn that Vernon had worked in a bank, clearly never losing his interesting attraction to female bank clerks. That Vernon had been to school, in fact, that on occasion that was never apparent. That by his peers Vernon was known as Pops, his fatherly image no doubt arousing great interest from ladies who required a bit of counselling. Vernon, the gentleman that he was too happy to have life, and that is Vernon. One more serious note. Vernon joined Support Commander from 2 Commander as a lieutenant. This certainly was no recommendation, but he assumed command of the mortar troop and successfully managed its transition from Joey deploy. May he rest in peace. His reputation as a boxer was well known, and myself being a coward of great repute, I always spoke quietly to him, always smiling and telling him what was a good chap he was, frequently scowling in return, looking as though he was going to club me, causing me to keep ducking in return. As I found out, great training for life in the KK. Vernon was a very fine man in a tight spot, invariably as a leader of a Paris sweep line, which was pretty risky business. I was fortunate that on the posting of his predecessor, that Vernon became my 2RC, scowling a little less and I ducked a little more. This appointment was extremely fortuitous, for during the dark days of May 1979, when the engagements with the enemy were daily or twice daily occurrence, he was always there for our soldiers and myself. It was a difficult time, filled with sadness and filled with loneliness, which placed a great strain on all of us. I was so thankful that he was with me. Looking back, it was a time that I would have spent with no other. A very special person who held fast to my hand whilst we walked that dangerous road together. To a very unique man we honour today. Thank you, guys. That is, we've now completed Vernon Prinsloo, and I'm going to go on to you now to discuss our next guy, and his name is Wayne Thompson, Major, retired. Wayne Thompson passed away in South Africa on Saturday the 4th of December 2021, 2 months short of his 77th birthday. Wayne was born in Benoni, South Africa in 1945. He immigrated with his family to Rhodesia in 1957 and attended Milton Senior School in Bulawayo, from which he graduated in 1963. He attended a regular Army Officer Cadet course at the School of Infantry and was commissioned into the Rhodesian Light Infantry as a second lieutenant in December of 1965. A grounding as an RLI troop commander in 2 Commander OC8 Troop during Operation Cauldron 1968 was followed by a succession of regimental appointments: battalion training officer, intelligence officer and acting adjutant. Promoted to captain, he then spent 2 years in the Army headquarters as staff captain, followed by a return to the RLI as 2IC at 2 Commander. Promoted to major, he had a number of brief spells at Army headquarters and then was posted to the Rhodesian African Rifles to command B Company, 1 RLI. Wayne Thompson was no stranger to the crack and thump of service as an infantryman on combat operations. He led his RLI men under fire during Cauldron 1968, accounting for a number of important terrorist kills. As OCB Company 1 RER, he led one of the early, if not first, RER companies selected for the Fire Force role and was responsible for their commendable operation success. He was a man of great physical presence, self-effacing, with a powerful aura of calm leadership and authority. He was deeply respected by the officers and men he commanded, and especially popular with his African soldiers. He had that rare leadership attribute, the ability to see into soldier and gauge his mettle. Famously, he exercised those leadership skills and fine judgment to turn around the fortunes of a failing RAR junior NCO with his beloved B Company 1 RER. The young corporal went on to earn a Silver Cross of Rhodesia in 1978 for gallantry as a direct consequence. Wamps, a hugely likable man, kind, compassionate, and generous to a fault. He represented all that was good about the Rhodesian Army officer. By 1970, he had married his childhood sweetheart, Colleen, and produced 2 children, Kerry and Bruce, of whom he was inordinately proud. Wayne and Colleen were the consummate regimental double act in RAR, doing so much to support their regimental families. After leaving Zimbabwe, Wayne successfully entered the world of business as both a manager and owner of a number of successful enterprises. He remained active in the Moth organization of South Africa for many years. Our deep condolences go to Colleen, Kerry and Bruce. Go well. Right, I'm now going to hand over to our next speaker, who is Maurice Gabriel.
Okay, Major Stephen Charles Kerry, an officer and a gentleman. A lot of us know him in the Cape, active with Leon Jacobs' Officers Club, the RLI Association, and the artillery, Rhodesian Artillery. Steve Kerry sadly passed away on the 16th of December 2021 from a heart attack. He was born in the UK on the 26th of July 1944. His parents immigrated to Rhodesia after World War II. Steve was educated in Rhodesia and he did his national service at DRR. He later went to the UK and did a short service commission with the Parachute Regiment. He returned to Rhodesia in 1963 and joined the RLI. He initially served as Troop Commander of 7 Troop, 2 Commander. Then after a mortar course, he became 2IC Support Group, that's RLI Support Group, and finally he was appointed RSO. In 1973, he was sent to South Africa for 5 months to undergo artillery training. He returned as firstly Adjutant, Depot, Rhodesian Artillery, and laterally Training Officer. His last appointment was OC5 Independent Company in Umtali. He left the army in 1979, but continued doing call-ups with the artillery. He and his family moved to South Africa in 1982. He joined the Sultan's Armed Forces, Oman, on contract in the early 1983. He was appointed OC Support Company in the Southern Regiment, KJ. He moved to SAF Training Regiment as Chief Instructor, and lastly as CI Support Weapons Wing in Aden. He left SAF in 1987 and returned to South Africa. In 1988, he returned to Oman, initially as a training officer and laterally as 2IC 1st Regiment Sultan's Special Forces, SSF. He finally left Oman in 1998 and returned to South Africa, where he set up his own roofing business in Somerset West. He retired to the UK in 2016 and survived his wife Erna and sons Adam and Paul. Rest in peace, Major Stephen Charles Kerry.
Good day. I'm going to chat about Dick Paxton. They had a wake for him a couple of weeks ago in Port Elizabeth, so it's not really a full one. Okay, so Flight Lieutenant retired in the Rhodesian Air Force, Richard Dudley Paxton, DMM MFC, and Captain retired in the South African Air Force. He was born on the 31st of March 1946 and he passed away on the 1st of January this year. Dick attended Kwekwe Primary School and Gifford Technical High School in Bulawayo. His pilot training course was number 22, and that was the last of the Royal Rhodesian Air Force courses. The Royal was stopped thereafter, and he qualified and got his wings in 1969. Dick was a very accomplished pilot. He served in 2 Squadron, which is the Vampires, 4 Squadron, the Province and the Trojans, 7 the Alouettes, where he did an incredible amount of combat flying, and then 8 Squadron, which was the Hueys, or the Bells, the Cheetahs that we had towards the end. Dick's citation for the DMM, which is the Defence Force Medal for Meritorious Service, it's also referred to as the Drinking Man's Medal, reads in part: on 24 October 1973, Air Lieutenant R.D. Paxton's aircraft came under heavy gunfire whilst dropping troops around a terrorist camp. He positioned the troops, then actively supported the ground forces in their attack despite being under fire himself. In this contact, many terrorists were killed. There were no security force casualties. His calmness and bravery under fire contributed in no small measure to the ground forces' success. Later, during his service with the South African Air Force, he was on board when the SS Tafelberg and the President Kruger collapsed during training exercises at sea. During September 1979, Dick's chopper, a Cheetah, was shot down at Mapai. Sadly, Dick's techie, Alex Wesson, was killed in that incident. The next day, Puma 164 also went down, resulting in the loss of many lives. Joy Paxton, Dick's wife and partner in life and adventure, has requested the following article be included in the obituary. That was at the time of the Cheetah incident. Dick asked me to write a piece called The Woman for his book. This is it. The women at home try to get on with day-to-day life while they wait for their men to return safely. He has constantly peeled for the sound of returning aircraft as the ITA, intended time of arrival, draws near. We have no idea where they are. We just keep busy. Dick had encouraged me to become a teacher. I was due to have my final practical examination in a couple of days and had been working on it that evening. The phone rang. It was late. Late phone calls during wartime mean bad news. The phone continued ringing relentlessly. Okay, I said to myself, it's Dick, probably telling me he's been delayed. I pick up the phone gingerly, tearfully, reluctantly. A voice says, "May I please speak to Miss Joy Robb?" Too formal. I do not know the voice, but it's not good. It has that formal military feel to it. Speaking, I hear myself say. I do not remember the exact words that followed, but it went something like this. "Miss Robb, I'm just phoning to tell you that Dick Paxton has been injured during a contact in action. Please do not be too concerned. He is okay. He is in the hospital, has a broken arm and mild concussion, but I assure you he is okay." Oh, I hear myself say. "When can I come and see him?" "No, don't come now. He is heavily sedated and needs to rest. Come tomorrow, that'll be fine." My mother comes to me, sees me sitting, staring into space. "What's the matter?" she asks. "Dick's been wounded. He's in hospital." She holds me, desperately trying to ease the pain. I'm lost. I'm just numb. How bad is it really? I ask myself. The former military phone call always plays it down. I don't sleep. I'm up early the next morning. I walk to the hospital. The thing you've dreaded most is now a reality in front of you. This lacerated, disorientated, seriously damaged figure, right arm in plaster. "Hi, Tabitha," he says. Other people arrive, family arrive, all trying to be cheerful. And I feel building up inside me a numb scream. That was from Joy. Okay, Tim Bax, Captain Tim Bax, served in the SW Scouts for RLI and was in Scouts for quite a while. He and Dick were quite good mates, and they obviously did a lot of flying together. So this is what Dick had to say, Tim had to say about Dick. They say that when a man dies, a library is buried, but when a soldier or any other serviceman dies, part of the very soul of the homeland he served is shed, lost forever to time. The selfless exploits and sacrifices he made for his country become just a fading memory. It is for this reason I join countless others today in paying tribute to the legendary Rhodesian Air Force pilot Dick Paxton, who passed away on the 1st of January this year. Dick was the calmest man under fire and never hesitated to take his ship where others feared to fly, for the sake of his country and for his friends. "Send me," he would say, calmly taking a pull on his cigarette. "I shall go." Thank you for your friendship, Dick, and for the time you pulled me out of danger. Every Rhodesian salutes you and owes you a debt of gratitude. People are remembered for many different reasons. We remember Dick as an aviator extraordinaire, flying a helicopter and just being a pilot. He loved camping and sailing, especially on Lake Kariba. Joy remembers a deeply honest and cool hero who loved adventure, the best driver ever to jolt all night till the early hours in the morning. Personally, I remember Paxton for his bravery, his wit and his humour. Bravery. Thank you, Dick, for the time you pulled me out during a hot extraction. I owe you. Wit. He was philosophical and opinionated, a deep thinker, where the norm was always up for debate. The humour. Andy Cap and Snoopy were his favourites. Snoopy said, "Death takes the body, God takes the soul. Our mind holds the memories, our heart holds the love. Our faith lets us know we will meet again. Rest easy, sir. Your duty is done. Your mission is complete." Thank you.
Good afternoon all. Thanks Billy. I just want to remind the Blue Jobs and other guys who knew Dick Paxson that there was a very famous tech that you had in the Air Force. His name was Henry Jarvie. And I think that picture of Henry, I think it was taken at Mount Darwin when he had the t-shirt, "I hate all 7 squadron pilots," and at the bottom was especially Dick Paxson. Okay, sort of summed up exactly who he really was. He was an incredible guy. It's my honor to remember 2 gentlemen from the Rhodesian African Rifles. The first one I'm going to do is Bill Libersidge. He retired from the army as a captain, and it reads, William Bill Libersidge was born on the 29th of December 1953 to Dr. Richard and Vivian Libersidge, and educated at Kingswood School, Grahamstown in the Eastern Cape. His father was a globally acclaimed and distinguished ornithologist, so that it might be said that Bill's true education began when accompanying his father on their numerous field trips to the Kalahari region of southern Africa. It was here that he learnt the bushcraft and tracking skills that would ensure his own survival many years later in Rhodesia, and from which he developed his deep love of Africa. Bill exercised his option to undertake his South African National Service with the Rhodesian Army. He joined 3 Commander Rhodesian Light Infantry as a MAG gunner in first 11 Troop, then 14 Troop. His leadership talent was soon spotted, and he was commissioned into the 1st Battalion of the Rhodesian African Rifles from regular Army Officer Cadet Corps. He served a lengthy spell as platoon commander in B Company, during which time he led his men with determination and courage on numerous counterinsurgency operations, including Fire Force. A gifted shot, he represented both his battalion and the Rhodesian Army at shooting. Bill combined intelligence, pragmatism, and a high intellect, so that it came as little surprise that he was plucked from his beloved platoon and selected to become 1 RLI's operation officer, a much coveted post in the battalion. As the Rhodesian Bush War reached its conclusion, Bill, by now married to the love of his life, Susan, was posted from the battalion to a staff job, returning finally to South Africa as a civilian on independence in April 1980. A man of few words and those he used sparingly, Bill was an accomplished photographer and remained a keen competitive marksman at UK club level. He aspired to national colours, but he had to curtail plans when the pandemic and bouts of ill health conspired to call a halt. He was an intensely loyal friend to all that knew him. But more than this, he was a devoted husband to Sue, a wonderful father to Carl and Jason, and a dedicated granddad to Sarah, all of whom he was intensely proud. We extend our deepest condolence to Sue, Carl, Jason and family. That was written and presented by Pat Lawless, Chairman of the Rhodesian African Rifles Regimental Association. The next gentleman I'd like to honour is Major John Russell, also from the Rhodesian African Rifles. Major John Russell, RLI, passed away from a COVID-related illness in Cape Town on the 25th of January 2022. Major John Russell was raised in Salisbury, Rhodesia, educated at Churchill. You can forgive him for that. He completed his national service in the Rhodesian Army in 1963. His leadership portfolio was spotted early. He attended officer training at the School of Infantry in Gwelo, was commissioned in December 1964, and posted as a subaltern to C Company, 1st Battalion, the Rhodesian African Rifles, where he commanded 9 platoon. John was a fine regimental officer and was deeply attached to his African soldiers. They in turn held him in high regard. He was great company in the officers' mess and an esteemed member of a select club of those who have spun their car at Molly Allen's store and survived the ceiling fan in the bar. The 1st Rate Infantry Platoon Commander, John served the C Squadron Rhodesian SS, then to 1st Battalion the Rhodesian Regiment as adjutant. Further postings to the Rhodesian African Rifles took place before he moved to Fort Victoria to form B Company's 2nd Battalion. His skill at raising new operational units was reflected in a short posting to form D Company 2 RAR shortly after he attended the Rhodesian Army Staff Course in 1976. He retired from the Rhodesian Army in 1977 and moved to South Africa. John is survived by his wife Jill, daughter Sarah, and son David, to whom we extend our deep condolences. Presented by Pat Lormus, Chairman of the Rhodesian African Rifles. I thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to share a couple of recollections from a number of people about Bruce Fraser. He was SAS and then 6 Recce down in South Africa. Anyway, Bruce was born into a family, older brothers, older sister, and a younger sister. He was married to Pam in 1977, and they have a son who's married to Marsha, and they in turn have a daughter called Shani. Bruce volunteered out of the SAS out of the RLI for selection into the SAS in 1970 and passed selection and joined C Squadron. After serving in Rhodesia, Bruce then joined 6 Recce in South Africa, serving with distinction in a number of operations. And now just some recollections from Garth Barrett, who was the CO of C Squadron. His recollections of Bruce are that he was a very competent soldier. He had a very good tactical brain, and although often reserved, Bruce was very well liked by everybody. Which, you know, from personal experience, Bruce was a sort of gentle giant, and then he turned into something else when he was in operations, you know. But out of operations, he was quite a nice guy, you know. So, and then John Ashburner recalls, the first time I met Bruce was one of the first basic tracking courses in 1972 held at Kariba. And he says, it's funny how it happened, but we happened to do the intermediate and advanced course together. I've always found Bruce to be an exceptional and professional soldier with a pleasant and friendly manner. At times I used to bump into him at a pub in Salisbury, and he always made the time to come and talk to me about the tracking wing, and then when the Selous and then in the Selous Cuts Waffa Waffa. And then after a long time I bumped into him in Durban. As normally came and spoke to me, a true gentleman and friend. We will always remember Bruce. And then some recollections from Keith Stack, who was in SAS with Bruce. Bruce was in my era a fine operator who was held in very high regard, and I remember him as a genuine person who was the real deal. I was privileged to operate alongside a man of this caliber. Bruce was a man of true dedication to the squadron and never put himself above any of his peers, no matter who they were or what their background was. Rest in peace, my brother. Then Darryl Watts recalls, Bruce was my friend. Although he joined the squadron after me, I saw his potential as a junior NCO, as he showed a lot of interest in all aspects of becoming a good soldier. And then further on, obviously in operations, saw his capabilities. He showed a keen interest in bushcraft and became an excellent tracker, and managed to get us very close to the enemy very often, without the enemy obviously knowing. Bruce was a very calm man when in contacts and showed no fear in action. As a friend to me and other soldiers, he became popular with other members of the squadron. He was never a loudmouth and spoke always in a very humble way to everyone. He had lots of respect from his juniors as a sergeant and stick leader, never faltering in that at all. Bruce always had good humor and made us all laugh when we needed to do so. I can never forget about Bruce in action with me in a sweep line on one of our operations. Bruce was next to me. We approached a river that acted as a trench, and I was shot and wounded. Bruce saw me go down and quickly ran forward and dispatched the cause of the problem. Then came back and told me about it, and everything turned out fine after that. You know, then he dragged me back to a safe place and basically saved my life. And then Johnny Rossier. What I can say about Bruce that most people who knew him don't already know. I was blessed and honoured to have had such a great friend and comrade through all my army career. I always felt much safer knowing Bruce had my back, whether it was in operations in hostile territory or a hostile nightclub full of RLI. No, sorry. Memories of what we got up to on our dive course in Cape Town culminated in us spending some time in the Fisher police station. And our holidays together in Durban are what legends are made of. What happened in Durban stayed in Durban. The only time we felt we may have overstepped the mark was on a training jump from 15,000 feet over New Serum. And Bruce and I decided to get acquainted. On landing, squadron leader de Kock got us in front of A Troop and berated us for 20 minutes, culminating in a threat that we would lose our wings. Thankfully, we were required on an operational jump shortly afterwards and obviously saved our wings. Bruce, you'll always be a true and loyal friend. Rest in peace, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for that. Some really good eulogies there. And yeah, big sadness to say goodbye to these people. All serious heroes of our time. And also just a special one for Dick. You know, Dick transported us in his chopper, most of us, all the time. And we've got to always remember them. And the blue jobs that carried us and took us to battle. So thank you. Okay, what we're going to do now is not on the program, but we're going to lay what is not a wreath, but it is a memorial to the various regiments. So if you guys that are going to lay a wreath, if you can meet at the table, please, and I'll call you up individually to do that, please. So Plug, if you can please fall in. Tony Pitzer, Mark DeVale, and Greg Todd. Have you got another? Richard. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, guys, we're going to start off with the RLI. Plug Downing here, come forward and lay the wreath for the RLI, please. Just stand. Okay, John. Thanks, Greg. On the way. Get off the sticks, yeah, don't pull in. Okay, the Rhodesian Air Force, Richard. Thanks, Richard. Zulu Scouts, Tony Pitzer. Cheers, Tony. RAR is Martin Kramer, who is actually 5RR. Thank you for representing the RAR. Thanks, Martin. Stand up, Trevor. Good. Rhodesian SAS, Mark DeVale. Thank you very much, Tony. Now, we've always had a memorial that's been placed by a very good old friend of the RLIs, Peter Horsburgh. Now, Peter unfortunately has left us. He's gone to go and live with his daughters in the UK. But he never failed at 88 years old to be present at any memorial service, any remembrance service, whatever it might be, to place a little memento from the RLI. So today we've got Judy and her mom Shirley. We've come to do that in his honor and in the honor of the RAR. Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, guys, that covers that part of our thing. We now go on to the dedication, which is going to be done by Lawrence Costain. He's going to come up and chat to you. Thank you. Thanks.
I want to begin by reading a passage from Matthew 16:24. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." Now, all of us know that when you join the army, you become army property. You belong to them. And it's a similar thing that Jesus is asking to us as believers. He says, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. And if you've listened to all of the stories today about these men, they gave everything. They laid it down. They committed themselves. And Jesus says the greatest love is this, that you give your life for your friend. And they did it on many occasions. And we honor them. We respect these men of God and their families and their friends and their commitment. And so we commend them and we commit them to the Lord. When I did a funeral service about 4 years ago, one of our officers, and at the time, a friend of mine, Dave Scales, was just sharing with me statistics from the army in the Selous Scouts, and he was saying by the end of the war, the Selous Scouts had turned more tours than they actually had troops in the army. And that's what we do as well. That's my job here as well, is to turn people and to bring them into another kingdom. I don't know if you know this, but the scripture tells us that when we become Christians, we are delivered out of a dominion of darkness, which is this world and how it runs, and we are actually presented into another kingdom. The Bible tells us this. It says that, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of your works. It is a gift from God. God wanted to save the whole world, so he sent his son into the world to die in our place. And the Bible tells us that he's actually died for the entire world. Everybody, doesn't matter how bad you are, he's died for you. What saves you is your recognition and acceptance of who he is and what he did for you. So heaven is not something we earn. It's a gift from God. We cannot earn it. We are just sinners. We're born sinners. From the moment you were born, your mom and dad had to tell you to be good because all you wanted to do was be naughty. You wanted your way. And in the army, you don't have it your way, you have it the way the army commands you. And in the kingdom of God, it's the same thing. So we come to this point now in life where our friends are passing away and they're moving on. And we believe in the love of God. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall have eternal life. So we commit them to the Lord today. I want to just close with a prayer. When we're passing into this world, Father, this new kingdom, this new realm, our work on earth is done. All hardship is gone, all pain is gone, all suffering is gone. So Father God, we ask you today to receive into your presence these friends. You know them. Your word says even before you created the heavens and the earth, you planned every one of our lives. So we're thankful that we have a God who loves and who has a plan for us and watches over us. Because of your grace, we can have hope, we can have joy, and we can have assurance that our friends are with you today. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
We're just going to have the roll of honor for the RLI in February, and it's going to be read out by Billy Bossoff. I'd like to get Kevin to come and drape the flag, please.
Okay, this is the roll of honor for the Rhodesian Light Infantry, and it's for the month of February. So, killed in action, Rifleman Gerald Parkin, Support Commander, 24 February 1976. Hans Corporal Douglas Makamba Cookson, 1 Commander, 28 February 1976. Trooper Chris Deirdricks, 1 Commander, 28 February 1976. Temporary Sergeant Peter White, 1 Commando, 28 February 1976. Trooper Guy Mackenzie, 2 Commando, 1st of February 1977. Rifleman Alan Vaughan, Support Commando, 17 February 1977. Trooper Simon Levieux, 2 Commando, 7th of February 1978. Second Lieutenant Desmond Chappie Rosenfels, 3 Commando, 8th of February 1979. And killed on active service, Corporal Peter Eggleton, 3 Commando, 15 February 1966. Second Lieutenant Charles Fillion, 2 Commando, 28 February 1968. Sergeant Ken Reynolds, 3 Commando, 12th of February 1970. And Major Spike Powell, Base Camp, on the 12th of February 1979. For the fallen, they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Okay, that basically concludes things. I'm just going to read out a bunch of thank yous to Judy Smee Dixon, Johnny Norman, Billy Bossoff, John Fansell, John Lucas, Robert McCracken, taking photographs for us. Thank you very much, guys. John, for your film and recording, thank you for that. Okay, is there anything else we've got to add here? Right, the other thing, of course, now is that today, or not today, but this month of February is the RLI 61st birthday. So we've got a little drop of sherry, and I'd like you to come up and share with us a toast to the RLI on its 61st birthday, and let's have a few drinks after that. To the Rhodesian Light Infantry, happy birthday! 61st. Happy days. Happy birthday. I took up everybody in the back.
I'm videotaping you all. Behave yourself, lads. Behave yourself. Christmas. Thank you. Cheers, Johnny.